In the heart of a quiet suburban neighborhood where American flags wave proudly on 4th of July and Union Jacks flutter in memory of distant roots, imagine a single mom facing down a gang of ruthless bullies who think they've found easy prey only. To discover, she's a battle-hardened former Marine with skills that could turn the tide in an instant. If you're hooked on tales of underdogs rising up with unbreakable spirit, smash that subscribe button right now for more edge-veer seat stories that celebrate resilience, justice, and the hidden heroes among you. Don't miss out. Subscribe today and join the fight. Sarah Thompson had always been the kind of woman who blended into the background. At least that's what the neighbors in Willow Creek thought. A small town on the outskirts of Chicago where the winters bit hard and the summers hummed with backyard barbecues. Willow Creek was the sort of place where everyone knew everyone's business, but no one really dug too deep. Sarah was a single mom to 2 kids, little Emily, 8 years old, with freckles like scattered stars and a laugh that could melt ice, and her older brother Jack, 12, who was just starting to test the waters of teenage rebellion, but still clung to his mom's side like a shadow. They lived in a modest 2-story house on Elm Street, the paint chipping a bit at the edges, the lawn mowed but not manicured. Sarah worked as a nurse at the local hospital, pulling double shifts to make ends meet after her husband Tom had passed away 3 years ago in a car accident that left her world shattered. But what no one knew, what Sarah kept buried deep under layers of civilian normalcy, was that before she was Sarah the mom, before she was Sarah the widow, she was Sergeant Sarah Reyes, a decorated Marine who had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. Staring down IEDs and insurgents with a steady hand and a sharper mind, she had left the corps honorably, trading fatigues for scrubs, combat boots for sneakers, all to build a quiet life for her family. But quiet lives have a way of attracting noise, and in Willow Creek, that noise came in the form of the Harlan brothers, 3 overgrown bullies who ruled the town's underbelly like petty kings. It started small, as these things often do. Jack had been riding his bike home from school one crisp autumn afternoon when he crossed paths with Dylan Harlan, the youngest of the trio at 17, a high school dropout with a chip on his shoulder the size of Lake Michigan. Dylan and his cronies, local thugs who hung around the abandoned mill on the edge of town, decided Jack's new bike, a birthday gift from Sarah, looked too shiny for a loser kid like him. They cornered him in the park, shoving him off the seat, laughing as the bike clattered to the ground. "What's a squirt like you doing with wheels like these?" Dylan sneered, his voice laced with that false bravado bullies wear like armor. Jack, tears stinging his eyes but refusing to let them fall, muttered something about it being his, but that only earned him a shove that sent him sprawling into the dirt. The other kids scattered, no one wanting to tangle with the Harlans. Around fast Dylan was the baby brother, but his older siblings, Wade and Travis, were the real terrors. Wade, 22, had done time for assault, his fists like hammers from years of underground fighting. Travis, the eldest at 25, was the brains, if you could call it that, running a small-time extortion racket, shaking down local businesses for protection money. They lived in a rundown trailer park on the wrong side of the tracks, their dad long gone, their mom a ghost of a woman who turned a blind eye. The Harlans targeted the weak, the isolated, and Sarah's family fit the bill. No dad, a mom who worked. Too much kids who kept to themselves. Sarah noticed the scrapes on Jack's knees that night as she tucked him in, but he brushed it off as a fall. Emily, ever the chatterbox, spilled the beans over dinner the next day. Some mean boys took Jack's bike, Mommy. They said bad words. Sarah's fork paused midair, her green eyes narrowing. She didn't push Jack then, knowing he'd clam up, but later, when the kids were asleep, she sat on the porch with a cup of tea, staring at the stars. Memories flooded back onto her, the dust-choked air, the split-second decisions that saved lives. She had sworn off violence, promised herself a peaceful life, but protecting her family? That was non-negotiable. The next morning, she drove Jack to school, spotting Dylan loitering near the gates with his pack. She didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, she filed a report with the local police. Sheriff Harlan, no relation, thank God, but a distant cousin who turned out to be as useful as a screen door on a submarine. "Boys will be boys, Mrs. Thompson," he drawled, leaning back in his chair. "We'll look into it," but nothing happened. The bike vanished, probably sold for parts. The harassment escalated. A week later, Emily came home in tears, her backpack torn, crayons scattered. They said, "We're poor trash, Mommy. That we don't belong here." Sarah's blood simmered. She marched to the school, demanding action from the principal, who promised to investigate but whispered about the Harlan's influence. Their uncle owned half the town's real estate, pulling strings like a puppeteer. That night, as Sarah bandaged a cut on Emily's hand from where she'd been pushed, she felt the old fire ignite. But she held back, opting for diplomacy. She confronted Dylan at the park, calm and collected. "Turn the bike, leave my kids alone," she said, her voice steady. Dylan laughed, towering over her 5'6" frame. "Or what, lady? You gonna cry about it?" his friend snickered. Sarah walked away, but not before noting their faces, their hangouts. She started training again in secret push-ups. In the basement, runs at dawn, sharpening skills dulled by domesticity. The bullies didn't stop. They egged the house one night, scrawling losers on the driveway in spray paint. Jack got jumped after basketball practice, coming home with a black eye. Emily's lunch money was stolen, notes left in her locker calling her names that no child should hear. Sarah's shifts at the hospital became a refuge, but even there, whispers reached her patients gossiping about the poor Thompson family being targeted. Then came the twist. Wade Harlan showed up at her door one evening, muscles bulging under a tight shirt, a smirk on his face. "Heard you've been complaining about my little brother," he growled. "Stay in your lane, or things get worse." Sarah stood her ground, door half open. "This ends now," she replied, but Wade shoved past her, entering the living room where the kids froze. He knocked over a vase, shattering it. "Accidents happen," he said, leaving with a warning glare. That was the line crossed. Sarah's marine instincts kicked in. She wasn't just a mom anymore. She was a warrior, protecting her unit. She began reconnaissance. Using skills from her service days, she tailed the Harlans discreetly. Dylan hung at the mill with petty thieves. Wade trained at a seedy gym, betting on fights. Travis operated from a backroom bar, collecting debts. Sarah documented everything, photos on her phone, notes in a journal, but she needed more. Reached out to an old Marine buddy, Mike, now a private investigator in the city. "Sarah, damn, it's been years. What's up?" Over the phone, she explained. Mike dug up dirt. The Harlans were deeper in crime than she thought. Drug dealing, stolen goods, even ties to a larger gang in Chicago. "Be careful, Sarge," Mike warned. "These guys play dirty." Sarah nodded to herself. So would she, if pushed. The escalation hit a peak when Travis targeted Sarah directly. He showed up at the hospital parking lot after her night shift, leaning on her car. "Nice ride. Shame if something happened to it." He demanded compensation for the trouble her complaints caused, $500 or else. Sarah refused, driving away with shaking hands but a plan forming. That night, she sat the kids down. "We're going to fix this, but you have to trust me." "Shh," nodded. Emily hugged her tight. Sarah installed security cameras, reinforced doors, and started teaching the kids basic self-defense. Nothing aggressive, just awareness. The first twist came unexpectedly. While tailing Wade to the gym, Sarah overheard a conversation. Wade wasn't just a bully, he was being bullied himself. Travis had him in debt from bad bets, forcing him to do the dirty work. "I ain't your slave, Trav," Wade muttered into his phone. Sarah filed that away. Opportunity? Maybe, but before she could act, the Harlans struck again. They broke into the house while Sarah was at work, the babysitter terrified. Nothing stolen, but the place trashed, photos smashed, kids' rooms appended, Emily's stuffed bear ripped apart. Jack found a note. "Back off or next time it's you." Sarah arrived home to chaos, her kids in tears. Fury boiled over. No more waiting. She confronted Travis at the bar alone. The place was dimly lit, smoke hanging like fog. "Call off your dogs," she said, sliding onto a stool. Travis laughed, his eyes cold. "Or what? You're just a nurse." Sarah leaned in. "You have no idea who I am." She revealed a glimpse her dog tags pulled from under her shirt. Former Marine, 2 tours. I've faced worse than you. Travis paused, then scoffed. Big deal. Get out before I make you. But doubt flickered in his eyes. Sarah left, but not before planting a seed. The bullies doubled down. Dylan and his crew ambushed Jack at school, dragging him to the mill. They tied him up, threatening to teach him a lesson. Jack, remembering Sarah's lessons, stalled them with talk. Meanwhile, Emily, who saw it happen, ran home and called Sarah. Mom? They took Jack. Sarah's world narrowed. She grabbed her old Gira tactical vest from the attic, pepper spray, a baton. Ow. No guns. She wasn't going lethal. But she